Zizaran here. I am gonna try to make a Righteous Fire guide for you guys. So basically, a lot of you have been asking as well why I'm not playing Low Life anymore. And it was basically, I'll start with basically you've seen Dan killing Uber Elder lately. And I had died to just a normal Red Elder on my Low Life Righteous Fire. And I tried killing Uber Elder on Standard, and Dan messaged me as well and was like, it doesn't have enough regen. And a Life Righteous Fire build gets, when fully geared, around like 4,000 or even more regen. That's like net regen before like all the resists, or before your Righteous Fire and stuff. But the low life one only gets like 1.5, and that's with a really nice duel in. So it's like, as you can see, it's not anywhere near the Life Righteous Fire regen. So I've copied Dan's build, and he does not want to make a guide. I messaged him and was like, hey, are you going to make a guide for this? Because a lot of people are struggling to do the build. And he was like, my profile, question mark? And I was like, okay, cool. So figured I would make a guide for those of you who are struggling with following a profile, and try to explain a little bit on how the build works, what I'm doing with it, and stuff like that. But yeah, hopefully it helps some of you. So I made a paste bin here, and I made like the leveling stuff. So 16 points, 26, 40, 57, and you just click through it and see, it shows you like where to put your points as you level. And then I'll have, you can just, past 98 points, you can just follow my Zizaran Life RF character. Then it should be the same. So you can start leveling this from level 20 as well. I have that here. Swift Affliction works as long as you have Arcane Surgeon. It's a little bit wonky. It works. So this is like still early in the league, so I don't like take too much time to make guides. I just want to push one out to help you guys get started. So here's the leveling gear. Obviously the jewels are not the ones you will be using in leveling. But as long as you have a Spring Leaf, Shaper Seed, 2 Cacao Sarus, and you're capped on Fire Res, then you should be able to just click Righteous Fire, and I think you'll be DJing a little bit until you get your Ascendancy. So first off, you do Unbreakable. You want to ascend like really, really early. I mean, if you can get somebody to carry through that bassoon hit Act 3, that's great. And then after that, you take Unflinching, then Unrelenting and Merklab. Now, I use Unyielding for everything except Uber Elder. And this makes killing the Elder, like tier 1 to 15, really easy as well, because it makes your AoE so big you can hit 2 of the larger squids at the same time. And then whenever I want to kill the Uber Elder, I use 10 Regrets and spec into Unstoppable. So that's how I do the Ascendancy. And then I've included item sets here as well for like cheap gear. You can use the Doriani's or a Brightbeak. And like everything here should be pretty easy to get. The most important thing, like the gear you want to prioritize. You want the belt, really important. Like you can get some cheap ones on shitty bases. Life recovery rate, as close to 20 as you can get. 15 is okay, but it's very big. It's like a multiplier for your recovery rate. And it only shows up at the building, it doesn't show up in-game. But yeah, very, very big to have that. Like, just the life recovery rate. I would probably go so far as to say that I would use a belt with only 20% life recovery rate. And just that. It's that good. It's very important for the build. The other important thing is a horror helmet. Now, there is no 6th link for Righteous Fire. So, and that's why we do the weird trick with Arcane Search. You can do Conk Effect as well, but you end up with a Conk Effect being like this big. Not great. Also made you like. But this setup, you have pretty decent AoE. You can do, later on when you're level 38, you can do Ink AoE and then swap that in with Conk. But then you don't have a 6th link anyway, so you have a 5 link. So that's a little annoying. That is where the horror helm comes in handy. So if you look at my endgame gear, you see that my helmet has the horror. It's the Essence of Horror, which you get by using a Remnant of Corruption on Dread, Scorn, Misery, or Envy. And so that is basically your 6th thing. And then you use Conk Effect or Burning Damage in the helmet. So then you can use Efficacy, Burning Damage, Ellie Focus, and Righteous Fire. So that is the way we're sort of obtaining a 6 link for it anyway. But even a horror helmet with just the 30% more is like plenty to take down the Shaper and stuff like that. A helmet like this is gonna cost you a lot. It's hard to get, especially with the horror prices. Other stuff for in-game, like a scepter like this, it's not actually too hard to craft. Like if you're picking up a lot of rares, you can probably get enough ults in like 20-30 hours of farming, like something you can realistically self-farm. You could get lucky and get it a lot less too, but I would rather be on like the more cautionary side there. Like, and you can buy ults, obviously. Like, it's worth investing in. So the way you would roll this is you would roll Elemental Focus and then reroll. Ideally, you want it on its own, and then it would be great to hit something else. But a lot of the time, you're gonna like need to annul the other stat and then multi-mod it. But that is as well also more endgame stuff. So this is what I'm currently wearing, and that's my endgame tree. Forbidden Taste is really, really good. You want to get that when you have probably 7 or 8k life, and at that point you have pretty good regen too. It's basically like a panic button, and like a normal Divine Instant Flask is like gonna do very little when you have like 7 or 8k life, so that's where it comes in handy with Forbidden Taste. And then you can change flasks depending on what you're doing. So like Topaz for lightning bosses. I keep like 6 flasks in my inventory. So like Sapphire, Topaz, and Basalt flask depending on what content I'm doing to make it easier. Sulfur flask, very important. Comb's Ways would probably get before a Comb's Heart. Is crazy. Like another endurance charge in all the region as a Juggernaut. Very big. So definitely prioritize that. Comb's Heart is something you can start farming yourself while you're leveling. You can get volcano maps, buy them, whatever. It's a pretty farmable card. I farmed 4 cards and then bought the other 4 myself. Obviously, every card you can farm makes the entire Combs a lot cheaper. So even farming 1 or 2 and buying the rest is decent. And when you are looking at endgame, like the final really OP thing in the build is the Life Recovery Watcher's Eye. And it really makes like crazy. Yeah, this isn't my actual character. This is like the leveling one, but it puts me from 3k to 4k regen on my actual character. Trying to think if I left anything out here. I'll explain a little bit more about the build. So the build uses Elemental Equilibrium, and a lot of people are confused why are you using that when you're using Scorching Ray and Righteous Fire. However, both of those skills are degen, so they do not proc the initial hit for Elemental Equilibrium. That means that your Shield Charge or your Orb of Storms are the only things proccing it. You need to make sure that when you're hovering over your Shield Charge and Orb of Storms in-game that there's no fire damage. So for example, I could have added Lightning or added Cold to attacks anywhere, like on my Scepter or whatever. And that would be fine, but if I had added fire or added fire to spells anywhere, that would be really bad because then I would be giving the enemy fire resist, and you don't want that. Elemental Overload as well, you proc that with the Orb of Storms and increase critical strikes. And then let's look at auras. So I'm currently running Purity of Fire, Purity of Ice, and Vitality. That's mostly, I'm farming Shaper and I'm farming Uber Elder and Elder, and they do cold damage as well. So, you don't actually need Vitality. The only reason I'm using Vitality is because of the Watcher's Eye. When I didn't have the Vitality Watcher's Eye, I was using the Spider Aura. And I'll show you and talk about how to get that now. So there are 2 ways. You can search on PoE Trade. I'll show that first, actually. So you can search for Venomous and then comma. And then it comes up with Venomous First of the Night. They're 48C. This is just the recipe to craft it. So then what this gives you is, I'll show you now, recipes, spider. It'll give you the aspect of the spider skill craft. This isn't the most dangerous version. It is pretty rippy still. And then it costs a suffix on an item. So for example, I have them crafted here. So that is the suffix. So if you hold with advanced mods on, suffix mod of Venomous. What that does, it gives you 5% more damage per spider stack. Like it gives a coating web, which is 30% reduced movement speed. And and 15% more damage total. So it's pretty big. And with all the AoE news you get and the endurance charges up, it like covers to like here. So obviously the 30% slow, really nice for survival. Things won't be hitting you as much because they can't reach you. And 15% more damage is huge. Very different than increased. As for Pure Device, I do quite like running Pure Device. You get so much fist mitigation on this build. So a lot of the time when I'm mapping, I'll have a Topaz fast skin and I'm running Pure Device. So with all that up, I'm 84, 83, 85. So I'm very safe against like, or actually I'm even higher because I have like 95. You don't really need Ruby fast at this point. Anyway, that is very safe. That's like a fast setup I like. And then if it's like cold damage on the map, you can put on a cold potion instead. Oh yeah, so a lot of people use different shields. I think I've even seen some guys using Prism Guardian or something. That might be low life. But I like Sappho's Frame. I didn't initially. I used Rise of the Phoenix, especially for my low life builds. But Sappho's Frame is really nice because it balances out your resist. And on this, compared to low life, you have crazy regen. You have so much way more regen that you don't really need to focus your fire rest that high. So getting like balanced stress instead makes it like so much safer in general. It also gives you spell block. And because we have the 9 endurance charges when the build is like fully pimped out, fist damage isn't really scary and like attacks. So spells and spell block is like, it's nice. I like it. I talk a little bit about like advantages of this build versus low life. And I've played a lot of the low life build. It is really good. And I prefer it for Uber Ziri because the Scorching Ray does so much more damage, so you can stand in a corner and face tank everything. This build has to run in the middle and it's a lot scarier for Uber Ziri. For the Elder fights and for Uber Elder, it's a lot more tanky. It's just got so much more regen that the K that the or I can't remember what they're called. There's like, I call them poop in all my videos. They basically poop on the ground and leave like decay, which does really large amounts of damage. And the low life build can't out regen those unless you have a Mana Guardian with you. This build, you can stand in them. The Shaper Balls as well, you can stand in for the most part. They'll be degenning you slightly. With the Sapphire Flask, they don't. So that is like the big advantage of life versus low life. Low life, if you're planning to play with a friend who's playing Mana Guardian, then that is a lot better. That is the big advantage of being low life. So to start this build, you probably need somewhere like 100 to 200 C. You can start like with definitely 100 or less as well, but you get what you pay for, right? But as you can see on a lot of the cheap items, should be pretty cheap. Definitely feels a lot better once you get a Horror Essence. So if you have one lying around for mapping, that's going to help you a lot. Like you don't need to hit any other mods. Gotta be careful. You can hit like something like added fire spells on a Horror Helmet. That would be bad. I think that sums up pretty much every... Oh, Bandit. Bandit is skill point. Don't take Oak. You don't need Oak. Just skill point. You want the 2 skill points. I think that sums up pretty much everything. Bit of a scuffed, fastly done guide, but I just wanted to help as many people as possible. So hopefully that helps. You only need an Enlighten level 3 for the when you get a Watcher's Vitality Eye. When you're running the Spider Aura, you don't need Enlighten at all. So that should pretty much sum it up. The character I'm currently playing with and using, if you want to check like what I'm using right now, is Zizaran Life RF. And most things should be included in the paste bin already. So, oh, almost forgot Pantheons. Try to not forget anything, but I want to get this out before starting my stream. So, Tukohama upgraded, really good. You can take Shakari as well for poison maps and switch to that. For leveling, you actually use Aberrath and Arakali. And then endgame, you use Tukohama and upgraded Solaris. Really big for like the AoE fights and boss fights and stuff like that. There! That should be everything. Thanks for watching. Try to die less than I do.